All right, welcome back. What an exciting match, and that does mean that Luminosity is going to make it, and I could tell that Vanguards was so excited after that match.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like they finally found their center. They did have a little bit of unsuccess in the first round against the team of Juveniles, but in this series, now that we've made it to the round of 4, these teams are battling it out for 3 spots. Only one of these teams is going to be eliminated and not continuing to BlizzCon. It would be unfortunate to be that team, but in this first series, we do have Juveniles going up against FollowESports, so we can take a look at that bracket to see it even clearer. We can see Tempo Storm and Luminosity a little bit later, but for right now, Juveniles, and they've locked in their composition. They're going to be playing the Rogue Mage Restoration Druid, and we can see that FollowESports are going to be locking in that Feral Lock Resto Shaman. So once again, Jellybeans is taking to the bench, relying on his team to carry him through with this Feral Lock Shaman composition.
All right, and if you want to follow along online with everything that's going on with this tournament, of course, you can follow Warcraft on Facebook, at Twitter, at YouTube, and on Twitch, of course. And make sure you're using the hashtag WoWEsports to follow along. We've been showing a couple of the tweets. A lot of people are really excited for some of these matches today.
Yeah, definitely. I am as well. I would love to see a rematch between Luminosity and Juveniles now that Luminosity has found their center. We're still waiting for one of the teams to get ready, but we could take a second to talk about the promotional code, which I believe is going to be RTB or WoW RTB 15. And you get a 10% discount on everything available in the Blizzard store, as you can see down below. So take advantage of that. Now is the time to buy all that plushie collection that you've ever wanted. But speaking a little bit more seriously, what do you expect FollowESports to be doing in this matchup?
This is going to be tough. They have a very deep roster. You know, FollowESports can play, you know, a number of things. But now that we know that they've locked in their comp and it actually is going to be that FLS, that Feral Druid, Affliction Warlock, and Resto Shaman. And of course, they are going to be playing against an RMD. Juveniles is just, they've been playing so well. I think this is one of the teams that we've seen that really hasn't been threatened by many people so far at this tournament.
No, definitely not. They've been dominating their way through. And let's take a look at the team Juveniles. We have a picture of them now as they set up in their player pod. We can see Roasties is the closest player. He's going to be playing that Subtlety Rogue. We can see Cubsy in the center. He's going to be playing Restoration Druid. And on the far side, we can see Wealthy Man. He is going to be playing that Frost Mage. And together, they are the Juveniles, only coming with a 3-player roster, but they are making it almost all the way. If they win this best of 5 series, they are locked into BlizzCon, and they'll be battling it out for the first place prize today.
All right, and of course, Cubsy, being that Resto Druid on the team, just playing an amazing job as all those Cyclones are just so important that he lands every single one, and he's been doing it the entire tournament. And of course, on your screen right now is going to be FollowESports, and FollowESports.com. You know, it's great that site stepped up and sponsored a team. You know, it's great to see players being recognized, such as Absturge and Walter Bear, Jellybean, and Vossel. I mean, they're just all so great at each of their individual classes.
Yeah, definitely. They really are. And I would expect now in this best of 5 series that we could see a lot of composition changes. So they might want to lead with the Feral Lock Shaman. They're looking to drag the game out, get a lot of spread pressure. And Vossel is really going to have to deny the crowd control coming out from Juveniles. He's going to be relying on his Shadow Fury and AoE stun. He's going to be relying on his pet to be interrupting incoming Polymorphs and Cyclones. And we're going to have to look to see who they want to shut down the most. Now, it's important to shut down the Resto Druid. He has an ability called Cyclone, which is going to crowd control you for 5 seconds. It pauses any incoming damage and it pauses any incoming healing, which gives them time to rotate that crowd control back over onto Absturge. So I would expect a lot of interrupts onto Cubsy, and he's going to have to be on his toes throughout this game because we've seen Vossel with his interrupts do work against Citrix earlier today.
Oh yeah, and that I was just talking to the team of FollowESports backstage after that win, and they were saying that was a strat they wanted to go. They called it the name of one of the Feral Druids. I can't remember the name of the Feral Druid on ladder that they said, Rubcub. They said they Rubcubbed him or something, and it was just like they interrupted the Paladin over and over and over and over and over.
Oh, the Paladin Rubcub just getting interrupted over and over. Yeah, and they did it really well, and they locked themselves into this round of 4, the final stages of the tournament. If they do lose this series, they do get a second chance. It's not complete elimination, and now this is a best of 5 series, which means we're going to see a little bit more map selection, maybe a little bit more mind games, maybe Jellybeans will get showcased, but now we can see both the teams showing up against each other here on the screen. screen. And once again, Roasties, Cubsy, and Wealthy Man going up against Absturge, Vossel, and Walter Bear. FLS versus RMD. Now, the team of FollowESports.com are going to have to deal with a minor change to the Warlock class. Vossel is going to have to be on his A game now that his dots aren't going to be able to do that much damage.
Yeah, and even in the game before, he did get out damaged by Chanimals by quite a bit in that matchup. But again, that was just showing how much crowd control Method was putting out. So Vossel really needs to be able to land those full lines of dots. And like we said, in so many matches so far, line it up with that Incarnation, maybe possibly forcing defensives out of Cubsy even before they use that first combination of Dark Soul and Incarnation from their DPS. And we've seen that FollowESports has used that to their success many times in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. I got to talk to Vossel after that last series, and he was informing me how he feels really confident against mage teams, not so confident against a Warlock mirror. And when you're facing Chanimals, one of the best Warlocks in the tournament, that's a little bit more than modest, I think, to say that. So here he's going to be going up against a mage team, his comfort zone. So let's see if that is any sort of advantage for him here in the first round as the teams are still setting up. We get a close-up now of Wealthy Man. They're going to be getting ready, getting prepared. You can see they are all focused as we get these players ready to go.
Yeah, and it's just looks like a little headset issue possibly with Absturge. They're just making sure that they can hear each other. And we said before about how important it is to set your healer in the center because they are normally the shot callers. That did change maybe, I would say, about 5 years ago or so in just WoW in general, where it used to be every player just relied on using their cooldowns themselves, and they'll say like, oh yeah, I'll just use shield wall, whatever. But it's really neat to see that now the meta has changed and the healer is the one in the driver's seat constantly. Like, no, I got you. Don't disperse. Don't disperse. I've got you. You know, I'm going to use my cooldown first. Okay, now your dispersion's next. I really like that now that they can sit the healer in the center and he's calling everything out.
Yeah, now what's interesting about this series is that we saw FollowESports go up against Tempo Storm, the other Rogue Mage Druid team in this tournament, and they were so close to victory. An unfortunate technical problem led to them replaying a map, unfortunately losing in that third map. Now they face the other Rogue Mage Restoration Druid in this tournament. To a lot of players here, considering them maybe better than Tempo Storm, there might be a bit of a class envy clash in the finals maybe between Tempo Storm and Juveniles to decide that. We'll have to find out later. But as of now, FollowESports looked very solid against Tempo Storm, and I expect them to bring that same solid play here against Juveniles.
What do you think is the difference between Tempo Storm's RMD and Juvenile's RMD? Is it a big playstyle difference?
I feel like Juveniles RMD is just a lot more fluid together. It feels like they're friends. They're not going to be getting upset with each other. They're not going to be yelling at each other. They always look pretty calm in the booth as well. So staying cool and calm and making sure that you get your setups over and over is going to lead to success. On the side of Tempo Store, they've got a lot of attitude, a lot of bite on their team, which can pay off at times as well when you can take that solo lead, go for the kill. We saw that yesterday when Jamili took down Chanimals by himself almost. So being able to take that lead and charge is important on your team as well. So we've got an aggressive team and a kind of more passive teamwork-oriented team, which gives you advantages in certain matchups, especially something like this. You're going to need teamwork as a Rogue Mage Restoration Druid to get that effective crowd control against this Feral Lock Shaman.
And I like that a lot of these new players that we talk about entering this scene had the chance to play in a tournament setting, even though it wasn't in a LAN, with all the online GCD tournaments, and all of these players took advantage of that. But right now, since we are still working on that headphone, we are going to talk to Bajiro with a special guest.
Hey guys, once again joined by Brian Holinka has stopped by, and so once again today is day 2, another set of amazing matches already. You being the lead or chief PvP designer, how does it feel to have your work just be appreciated and enjoyed and loved by so many people out there?
Well, I mean, when you work on a game like this, you're setting out to make really fun classes to play, trying to make battlegrounds and arenas that are fun and create a rewarding experience. But then you see folks like these guys who are just so good at playing the game. It's almost fun to kind of look at their fingers on the keyboard sometimes, moving so quickly, it blows your mind. So they take what we do kind of to the next level in terms of execution, and it's really awesome to watch. And I think it's created some really thrilling games for everybody today.
Yeah, so I think we hinted about this yesterday, is that you guys are creating the game. Mm-hmm. It seems like a lot of the community are creating events like this or making them so great.
Yeah.
If you can, for Legion, what sort of things can we expect to sort of foster WoW as an esport?
Well, I certainly think the changes that we've made in Legion that are kind of reducing the impact of gear will make it a lot easier for a lot of these players to perhaps multi-class a lot more. We really like the idea that you're kind of seeing in this tournament, that players are subbing out the fourth player, they're changing comps, and there is a lot of strategy and meta to, kind of counter-comping, using the maps. We think that's interesting, and we really want to focus people on, being a great World of Warcraft player, not necessarily, I only play this class, I never play any other class, and if this class is not good, I'm not even going to play the game, right? So we really think, stressing in esports that having well-grounded players is an important thing. So I certainly think the changes that we've made to gear will help that. And I think the second thing that will help that is we are doing the spec-specific stats, which we talked about back in Cup 3. That allows us to have players, allows our designers to change player specific stats based on how well that specialization is performing. So for instance, it often happens that some PvE change will affect PvP in a pretty profound way. Now we'll be able to respond to that with very specific tuning, whether it's, hey, Warlocks are too strong, we'll reduce their intellect by 10% rather than like doing these strange multipliers behind the scenes. But it also will have the PvP talents that unlock through our talent system, and that'll allow us to make mechanical changes too. So I think my hope is, and I'm a hopeful person, is that in Legion, we'll have better ability to make a lot more specs viable, and that'll make these tournaments even more interesting to watch and play in.
Awesome. Well, speaking of the tournaments, it looks like we're just about ready to throw it back to the casters, but I bet Brian will be hanging out with us a little bit more today.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can ask him a few more questions, maybe even get some analysis on some of the games.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
Awesome. All right, back to the casters.
All right, thank you very much, guys. And like we said, these teams are ready. And of course, it is going to be on the Grand Arena to start things off as usual. This FLS playing against this RMD, and a lot of players are really scared of these RMD teams.
Yeah, they seem to be the notorious titans of the tournament, the devil that you have to meet and defeat if you want to make it to BlizzCon. So if FollowESports wins this series, this best of 5, they will be moving to BlizzCon and battling it out for that first place spot. Obviously, the Juveniles are not going to give that option up without a fight.
They definitely are. And just taking a look at the specs and glyphs that they're using, nothing too out of the ordinary. This is pretty much what we expect from both teams. And of course, Roasties is going to be playing Subtlety, and I know it was interesting to see a lot of the European players watching this tournament were really criticizing the US Rogues for playing Subtlety instead of that combat.
Yeah, it seems to be a European flavor to run combat, whereas in North America they are still running that Subtlety spec. So Subtlety is a minute cooldown based burst spec, whereas combat is a consistent in-your-face building up towards that red buff killing spree. So it's a different playstyle and a different feel, but Juveniles are going to be sticking with it, not trying anything new out here in the first game.
All right, as the gates are about to open, we are going to see how the team of FollowESports can handle this opener, because, of course, we are going to be seeing Roasties on your screen just pushing his way on in. And there we go, a sap onto Vossel to start things off. But you can see, wow, the Feral and the Rogue almost stepped on top of each other.
Yeah, and we have the opening pressure right now. Cheap shots onto Vossel, but with no crowd control onto Absurge. They're going to deal with this very well. Gouge onto Walter into the full kidney shot, but they don't chain the CC onto Absurge. He's able to ground that poly. They get the clone, though. Walter getting bursted. He trinkets into another cheap shot, but he did get that survival instincts damage reduction cooldown up, so he's barely clinging on here at 24%. Pops that incarnation defensively, trying to stun up Roasty right now and prevent him from doing damage. Now rotating the stun onto Cubsy, but he's going to sit through a full blind. Excellent usage from Roasty, now going for the Vanish, trying to get the sap, chains it into the sap, and goes for the cheap shot immediately onto Vossel. What are they going to do to follow it up? Deep Freeze is now available for Wealthy Men.
All right, and it was amazing to see that the second the link went down, the team of Juveniles started pulling back. But look at the damage you're putting onto Roasties, having to force the NS regrowth out, because Cubsy is going to be playing that Soul of the Forest spec, so he's going to get huge, gigantic regrowths off of that Nature Swiftness.
Yeah, and we can see now the Incarnation Berserk combo fading for Walter, and with that, their pressure is going to be lost as we see the Juveniles retreating back to their original side of the map. Vossel pushing forward, realizing that most of these RMDs continue to neglect him, trying to take advantage of that and play very offensive and in their face. And I'm curious if the Juveniles are going to move to pressure that as we see Roasty starting to attack and building up some combo points for the next attack. Shadow Dance and Deep Freeze are available. Walter pushing in. He has no trinket available for this next kidney shot. He could be in trouble. Looks like they might set it up with the gouge instead. The kidney shot onto Vossel. Now Shadow Dance cheap shot swap onto Walter. Triple CC out for Juveniles. They land the full poly. Vossel gets out of that clone, but into a half stun. Walter could be in quite a bit of trouble here. Cubsy still chaining those cyclones. He needs to rotate that onto Absurge here shortly. The Shadow Fury lands. He's going to trinket out of that, but he gets Blood Elf silenced. Excellent follow-up from Vossel. Very unexpected for Cubsy.
This must be a great game to be Vossel, where he just basically can stand in the middle and cast whatever he wants, because he knows that they're going to go on Walter Bear every time instead of him.
Yeah, and now the full kidney shot. Smoke bomb dropped. Absurge needs to reconnect and get some heals here. He's running into the center field, but he's going to get Vanish cheap shot on the way in. He does have his trinket available. He drops the link right before the clone lands. Cubsy just a little bit late on the trigger means that his team will survive. Roasty now getting cloned up. Pressure across the board, but they chain it into a full poly out of that clone without even needing Deep Freeze, which means that this crowd control chain onto Absurge is going to be quite long as he goes into another polymorph. Wealthy Man looking for another one out of that. He still has a Deep Freeze, but he gets locked on Frost. Excellent kick from Walter is going to break up that CC onto Absurge.
And there's the Deep Freeze as Wealthy Man gets a big heal from Cubsy right there with the NS. But look at the Cyclone with Walter Bear down to half, taking a ton of damage right there. The Dark Soul comes out. Excellent crowd control change as look at Roasty's just running after him. Walter Bear is going to have to go into bear form right now and trying to live. The pre-evasion popped. And look at, wow, Roasty's also just taking a ton of damage too.
How is he alive? This CC chain onto Absurge has been at least 30 seconds. It's still going. Walter is on the run. He needs to stay alive. He needs to stay above water, just running circles away. He's down to 4%, down to 2. Absurge is somehow keeping him alive, down at 7%. Absurge, the god, keeping him alive, down at 7%. Walter Bear has done it. He's kited through the storm, and he will survive this setup, but it's setting up again. A clone onto Absurge, a poly onto Vossel. Walter is still alone, but he's still alive. Throws the bash onto Roasty. Roasty trinkets that to try and desperately reconnect. They want to put Walter down right now. He pops the Incarnation in desperation to try and make a turnaround. Roasty's overextending here quite a bit, down at half. Cubsy has to use that Iron Bark to stabilize. What a close call for FollowESports in this first game.
And Walter Bear is going to go for the Incarnation onto Cubsy as he's down to half, but he did get blinded off, followed by a gouge. Just lots of control out of Roasties, who is going to stand still and wait, excellently popping the cloak before re-engaging on to Walter Bear. Walter Bear is just going to ride this Incarnation out, not doing a ton of damage, but just as I say that, Wealthy Man gets bursted down to about half right now. Vossel is doing an incredible job of keeping that pressure up.
Yeah, but Walter's getting stun lock comboed right now. Absurge is not crowd controlled. They're going on the offense. They want to chase down Juveniles right now. Absurge in center field might go for some Lava Burst, spamming that purge over and over. Wealthy Man doing whatever he can, landing a full poly. Are they going to make a bit of a turnaround here? Walter Bear throws out that bash, outputting a lot of pressure. He did not pre-feint this stun. He does not have Cloak of Shadows. Cubsy needs to keep him alive. He trinkets to do so. Getting some hots rolling here. Wealthy Man getting locked out. A half fear onto Cubsy, but Walter is caught into a full kidney shot once again. He needs to survive this near-death experience. Down to 17%. Goes into bear form. Comet Storm connects. Absurge is still crowd controlled. No trinket available for 3 more seconds. FollowESports are going to fall to Juveniles in game 1, but a very hard-fought effort for them.
Wow, that wasn't so close on being able to trinket that round of CC. And wow, I cannot believe how long Walter Bear survived in the middle of that match.
Yeah, it was excellent play from Walter, always knowing when he's in trouble and getting the heck out of the way. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it forever. They overextended a bit for that chase and couldn't capitalize it and ended up going down. But we're going to throw it to Bajira to get some more insight into game number 1.
Holy moly, man. Even as a spectator, it is so much fun to watch Juveniles play. Their cross CC is amazing, but just the amount of CC you can see on a one target is unreal. There was a triple clone into a Frost Jaw, into a full poly, half poly, quarter poly, into a silence or something insane like that. But the most crazy part about all of that is that Walter Bear actually survived that round. You know, how much HP did he have? Like 24 HP at that point, literally?
Low.
Yeah, so that was absolutely unreal. And then the scariest part of it all is it cycles back around and they can do it all over again.
Yeah, every time you see Deep Freeze show up on Upsurge, it's terrifying, right? Because as soon as Deep Freeze is on, there's going to be a clone, there's going to be a poly, and that's where the kill window is always unlocked. But yeah, you're right. Well, I don't know how Wallbear survived. My heart was beating 1,000 times a second. It was pretty insane. And you know, you can't really take much away from Upsurge. That I think all tournament. When talking to a lot of players, talking to you casters, people have been most impressed with his play.
Yeah.
I mean, he's making kind of these Live Lord-like plays that we've really only seen out of maybe one other player as a Resto Shaman before.
Right. Yeah, so that was incredible. I mean, Absurge is playing like absolutely out of his mind amazing, which is what you would expect in a tournament setting. But the unfortunate situation that he's finding himself in is that Juveniles are playing just as well. And they're playing RMD. Once you see an RMD playing top level, it's absolutely insane. So, you know, if they can repeat that performance, Juveniles, you know, that's going to be amazing. But it will be also tough to see if our FLS friends can go ahead and step it up to the plate. But we're going to go ahead and get to this next game and see if that's the case.
All right, thank you again, Bajira. And of course, that does mean that Juveniles is up 1-0. And again, because we have moved on past the group stage and we are now into our final bracket, these are going to be best of fives from now on. So FollowESports does have a little breathing room, as we did see them turn it around and almost kill Roasties at one point. But what was great to see is, even though Cubsy was free to heal and cast everything, Walter Bear with that fading incarnation was able to burst Wealthy Man down also. So it seems like they have a lot of viable targets to kill if these games get drawn out.
Yeah, Walter Bear was doing a great job to space out his Incarnation and Berserk. Rather than stacking them together and getting caught in a stun, he was spacing them out to get a little bit more damage over time. But I feel like they just overextended. They played so solidly against Tempo Storm on defense. Right there, maybe they got overexcited. Everyone's kind of low. We've just survived. Let's push in. Unfortunately, Deep Freeze comes up, chain it into a clone, and that's going to spell victory for Juveniles in Game 1. Let's see if they can do it again in Game 2 as Roasties pushes forward, lands a full sap onto Vossel. Who are they going to rotate it around onto? Doesn't look like they're going to be able to get it, but Cubsy fakes out that counterspell right away, and that is very important for Juveniles to get some big CC chains out early on.
I thought Walter Bear was going to get a good Cyclone off there, but he actually got kicked, I do believe. There we go. Shadow Dance already really early. Looks like they are just going to go onto Walter Bear as he's down below at about half right now, but the roots come out on to Roasties as Roasties is going to have to sit through that entire route, which is going to cause his Shadow Dance to fade. Walter Bear looks like, there we go. Now we're going to have the Incarnation, and it looks like Cubsy was the target of choice at that point, but Walter Bear is going to get full blinded on that Incarnation.
Yeah, they're always doing a great job to shut down Walter. He always trinkets in the open, so they're punishing him with that blind sap, and I can appreciate the patience from Roasty to save that for him. Now they're going to be looking for the next setup. Deep Freeze available, Frozen Orb as well. Wealthy Man building up full Icicles here shortly. There goes the Orb. Here, surely the Deep Freeze is going to come. Upsurge has grounding down, but he doesn't get it. He ends up getting polyed off of the Deep Freeze, and this could be it for Walter. He pops the Survival Instincts. He pops the Berserk as well, trying to make a bit of a damage turnaround onto Cubsy, but he's got that bar skin to respond. Will it be enough? Down to half, displaces away. He's going to survive for now. Walter in retreat with Absters, trying to output some bleeds here onto Roasty, who finds himself caught in a full stun, but Cubsy is there, holding his shoulder, keeping him alive with those excellent heals.
Yeah, and I got to give it to Roasties. At the beginning of this match, he shut down the entire Incarnation, but look at the damage turned back around on him. The Hex lands on Wealthy Man, which gets immediately removed, and then we see the Shadow Dance to turn it around onto Walter Bear. There's a lot of damage. Deep onto Absurge right now. The crowd control is coming out with the bash, and Walter Bear barely lives for a second, but the link is dropped.
He got into it.
Wow.
He actually got into the link. Absurge had to drop it where he stood, and he managed to get inside, but he gets polyed out of the clone. Well-timed polymorph from Wealthy Man could end this game. Walter is still just completely alone, down at 8%, and he knocks Roasties down off the side, barely staying alive in bear form. He wants to win this game and stay in it, but Absurge is just still getting crowd control. He's down at 12%, caught in a full stun. Absurge is cloned up, and that's going to be it. Despite surviving so long, the crowd control chains are too perfect out from Juveniles, and they're going to take game number 2, and we're going to be moving into potentially match point.
Wow, that was incredible. I can't believe Absurge even got that link off. I thought it was over right at that moment.
Definitely was it in my mind as well, but we're going to give it away to Bajira once again.
Okay, that is the most brutal cross CC I have ever seen. So they have their rotation of CC that they want to dump onto Absurge. But the problem is, as soon as Absurge gets out of a CC, being fully DR'd on it, they just throw it onto Vossel so that he can't stop any of the next CC coming in. This Juvenile team is playing just out of their mind.
Yeah, it seems like everything they're executing perfectly, and like you said, even if they, after the deep freeze, try to get a poly, if they can't get the poly off, they're getting the clone off instead. So they've got everything, they're executing perfectly, and they're just making it really tough for anybody to beat them.
Yeah, we talked to Juveniles earlier in the interview, and I asked them if they thought having only one comp and pretty much only playing that one comp with only the 3 players gave them some sort of advantage because they play together so much. They only play that one comp, and they become masters of that. And I think that's what we're seeing in these games. They don't have to stick to the traditional deep polymorph combo. They're not worrying about the rogue only setting up everything with cheap shots. They set up with anything they want. They're doing the deep freeze into triple clone, into frost jaw, into full polymorph rotation, into a silence from the rogue. I mean, this team is doing whatever they want, and it's looking really tough to stop them. But we're going to see if that's possible. I mean, they're swapping over the damage. FollowESports is swapping over the damage to the rogue. We saw a really nice Typhoon to knock the rogue off of the side of the map to provide some line of sight to deal damage. We saw Absurge chucking some lava bursts at him, but it's really not going to be enough. They got to bring something else out. What do you think that might be?
I mean, certainly, I think in that first match we saw at one point they really had Roasties quite low, and it seemed like they actually caught them off guard. Yeah. And it could be that just Juveniles is kind of focused more on like executing their chains and putting into their burst than watching their own health bars at times. So it could be that what they did the first game was just turn all that damage around every time Incarn came up and really put it on the rogue, trying to get him before he gets faint up. That might be the only way they can get a win. Yeah, and we're seeing, I mean, obviously when you CC the enemy, it is locking them down so you can deal damage to them, but it's also preventing them from dealing any sort of damage to you. And one of the things about FLS is that you're relying a lot on that incarnation damage. And we see Cubsy using Tree of Life to match Incarn for Incarn, healing through all of that anytime things get scary. The rogue is playing really heads up. There have been situations where he was not able to feint before the stun came out, but in most situations he is, and even if he does get caught without a defensive cooldown, his team's got his back. Like I said, Juveniles are playing absolutely out of their mind. Team play on an individual level, these guys have what it takes, and they're only one game away from moving on to the finals. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the only hope that they really have is during the Incarn, they hit the Rake stun before the feint comes up, and they somehow can get some good CC on Cubsy. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yep. All right. We're going to go ahead and throw it back to the casters, see what they think, and get set up for this Game 3 that could potentially decide who moves on to the finals.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, again. And, of course, that does mean FollowESports.com is down 2-0 to Juveniles right now. It's a scary situation to be in.
That's not the place you want to be in. One win for Juveniles to make it to BlizzCon and to make it for a shot at first place in this tournament. And they are so commanding as a team. We can see when Wealthy Man is unable to get the crowd control, Cubsy is there for the follow-up every single time, and they rotate that CC to perfection. Despite Walter Bear's most efforted survival attempts, he just can't make it out to the light at the end of the tunnel. Absurge with an excellent Spirit Link, just barely getting into it and not able to get down the second one with his trinket still on cooldown. We're going to have to see what they decide to do in Game 3. I think we're going to see a composition swap as we see Jellybeans walking around a little bit, getting ready. He needs to pump himself up. His team needs to stay positive in this position if they want to take some games back.
Oh, man. There you see it. Hunters at home, I hope you're paying attention. Follow everything that this guy does. He is such a good hunter, and I'm glad he's able to showcase his talents on these maps so far. I mean, we saw him yesterday absolutely dismantle a team as survival.
Yeah, he definitely can. Enhancement Shamans are one to be afraid of this. And, speaking a little bit into the future, if esports here, FollowESports loses, they're going to move to the third place round and potentially face the loser of Luminosity versus Tempo Storm. So Luminosity, feeling like they're not very strong against RMD, could lose there, and then they would have to fight FollowESports if they lose here. And we've seen this Jungle Cleave decimate Enhancement Shaman, so regardless, Luminosity moving forward is going to be afraid of any decision really from this point. But here now, seeing the change up, Jellybeans there, the closest player, Absurge in center, and Walter Bear taking their headsets off, even taking a personal moment here just to talk it out, calm down, take some deep breaths. They tried very hard, but they need to try something else. It's just not working against Juveniles. Their crowd control chains are perfection.
Yeah, and we've always said so far on these days that Absurge is just playing amazingly well, and that's what he needs to do. He needs to play calmly. I think that that's the big difference between when you look at Resto Shamans that are absolutely at the top of their game versus ones that might struggle in this situation, is that even under intense, crazy pressure, they play calmly. They're holding their cooldowns as long as possible. They're relying on their letting their mastery do the work for them. Like, I don't have to panic if somebody is starting to get low. You know, I know that one heal that I do land eventually, even if it's with Ascendance, is just going to top everyone off. You know, there's lots of opportunities for them. I think that's what they need to do, and maybe the swap onto Jelly Beans is just going to bolster his outlook on the next game, and just see like, okay, now that I have a hunter that's going to be backing me up, you know, during these CC chains, that maybe that's all I need.
I can't help but feel that FollowESports were just a little bit too overeager in the first two games. We saw them face Tempo Storm yesterday, and Absurge and Walter were always staying together, moving as a unit, and we could see in those two games that they got separated. And when you get separated in a mall and you can't find your mom, that's going to be a scary moment against a team like Juveniles. So you have to stay together. Now this swap to Jungle Cleaves means that they need to bring aggression, so that mindset of defense is going to have to change a little bit. But for the target of Jelly Beans now, which is a viable swap, he's got to be ready for it. Walter has to be ready for it. Basically, anyone on the team of FollowESports has to be ready to die at any moment against this team. And with the teamwork that Juveniles brings, they could bring any swap potential to this matchup.
And they can. And like you said, all three members of the team of FollowESports are great kill targets. It's kind of tough for FollowESports to kind of choose a target to go on. Like getting Cubsy in that window when his Bark Skin is down, his Iron Bark is down, against a team that's just going to play so in your face, it's hard to get those moments on.
Yeah, there's a couple ways that FollowESports could play this out. They could go for the train Cubsy down. Let's see how he handles that kind of pressure, but it could be a risk. This is the last chance they have, and if they all in like that, drag themselves out of Absurge's line of sight and out of his Spirit Link range, they could risk the entire game. So I'd expect maybe more safe play, sticking on Wealthy Man, trying to stop his crowd control, and sticking onto him, forcing through the ice blocks and playing it slow and steady.
Now, do you think that since Jelly is going to be playing BM Hunter and not Survival, so he is going to be trying to burst him down right at the start, I have a feeling that maybe that they just want to throw off Juvenile's very first push of the game and just ride that throughout to the victory. But, I mean, I would have expected maybe Survival in this case, but I guess with the BM Hunter, they just want to toss that damage out.
Yeah, Survival would have been really good as well to lock down Peekaboo, but the BM Hunter burst with that barrage is going to do a ton of damage as well. And like you were saying, that kind of spec differentiation might give a cue to Juveniles to say, hey, why are you BM? You've played Survival all tournament long. That is a change. Now, Beast Mastery Hunters rely on their pet a lot more to deal damage. At the same time, that means that Jelly Beans can play more defensively. He can run away behind the pillar, but his pet's still going to be nomming at the health bars of the opponents. So I actually like that choice in terms of damage output. He's going to lose a bit of survivability in terms of rooting Peekaboo down, but Peekaboo's just going to throw his Cloak of Shadows away to break those roots constantly and keep his mobility high. And playing Subtlety, it's not so much about his constant damage, it's about his burst, which he's going to be saving for when he's not crowd controlled. So I like this change from Jelly Beans. It's going to allow him to play a much more defensive playstyle if necessary.
Do you think because he has chosen BM, and of course these players are going to see the enemy specs when they get in the map, and by the way, it is going to be Ruins of Lordaeron, a very hunter-friendly map in this case. So do you think that it's going to kind of show what their strat is going to be? Like, do you think BM is going all in on Cubsy?
We've seen the mind games of this tournament. We've seen targets like Starship go down as a Resto Druid versus MLS, things that you would never expect. So this could be another curveball. You pick Ruins of Lordaeron. That's definitely a healing training map if there ever was one. So the other team of Cubsy, the Juveniles, they're probably expecting that. They're going to say, oh, Ruins of Lordaeron? Beast Mastery? All right, they're going to go after me. And as soon as you know that you're going to be the target as the Resto Druid, you go Heart of the Wild, you play very defensively, you save your cooldowns for yourself, you don't use your Iron Bark on your partners, you don't use your NS on your partners, and you've got this much more defensive mindset. So now FollowESports might have tricked them into that defensive mindset. They go for a different target. Cubsy's trying to hold on to his cooldowns, expecting to get trained, and they end up getting a kill because Cubsy wants to save it for himself.
All right. I mean, that's an excellent choice to go, and that I like that BM Hunter gives that kind of mind games that you were saying. So again, Juveniles up 2-0 over FollowESports.com going into Ruins of Lordaeron. This is just about it for FollowESports if they want to make their way to the grand finals, because again, even though you'll still be able to play for that third place spot, the money difference is gigantic.
Yeah, and if they do end up falling to Juveniles here, they could potentially have to have a rematch with Tempo Storm, which would be devastating for them if that happened. So they want to win this. They want to make it. They want to qualify for BlizzCon. We have 4 teams left, but only 3 of them can make it. Who is going to be the one team to be eliminated? FollowESports.com definitely don't want to be it.
Oh, they definitely don't. Okay, so on your left as we get into this match is going to be Juveniles. Of course, that is going to be Roasties playing the Subtlety Rogue with Wealthy Man on the Frost Mage and Cubsy playing that Resto Druid. Of course, on your right is going to be FollowESports, who are down 0-2 right now, facing elimination from the upper bracket right now with this game. Walter Bear on Feral Druid has been doing an incredible job this tournament, and they really need to make something happen. Of course, that is going to be Jellybean playing that BM Hunter, and of course, Absturge, quite possibly MVP healer of the tournament, just doing an incredible job. But of course, he's facing off of everyone's crowd favorite Cubsy playing that Resto Druid.
Yeah, regardless, this match is going to be over fast. FollowESports are going to lead this game guns blazing. Juveniles as well. They want to win this. This is the last chance for FollowESports.com. If you're the supporter of this team, you want to give them your energy. You want to give them your support, because this is it. Their last chance in this series to make a comeback. I can appreciate FollowESports trying to take advantage of that Horde racial. Jellybean's actually playing Orc, so they're going to be reducing the stuns coming out from Roasty here, and that's very important in this matchup. We see Roasty's moving forward, standing right on top of Jellybeans for a second, but not finding him. Lava Burst cheekily being thrown out by Absurge onto Wealthy Man, but they found their target. Murder of Crows up on the Cubsy. He barkskins immediately. Will it be enough as they're all going on offense? But nice cheap shots out from Roasty allow Cubsy to get a nice clone. They're going to rotate the pressure back onto Walter Bear. He trinkets that, pops that survival instincts, goes for the Berserk as Barkskin has now faded for Cubsy. He's going to chain that into the heart of the wild. Walter Bear now sitting through a full blind, and once again, Roasty's shutting down the aggression of Walter.
And he really did. And the cross CC from both Cubsy and Roasties are just doing such a great job, because when we saw that cheap shot to peel just for a second off of Cubsy, then he was able to toss out that Cyclone, and it was incredible just casting right in his face. As we do see a Cyclone come out on to JBZ. Look at the damage coming out onto Walter Bear. The triple DR, cheap shot stun with a Cyclone onto Absturge. Walter Bear is just running to try to find his target, as both it's going to force Absturge in a really bad position as the Healing Tide comes down right there. But look at the full trap onto Cubsy, as Roasties knows that the damage is going to be coming out, followed by the Hex onto Wealthy Man too, which gets immediately dispelled once that fades.
Yeah, Cubsy did a great job to preemptively get into bear form for that trap. They might have wanted to swap to him, but now we see Roasty with the setup. Cheap shots on everyone. Everyone is in a stun lock. Absturge has to trinket out of that. Drops the Spirit Link to connect the health bars of his team. Now we see Walter Bear bringing on the aggression towards Cubsy. He's caught in a full bash. They're going to use the Murder of Crows. Cubsy once again efficiently trading that Barskin forward. He's down to half, trades the Iron Bark and the Nature Swiftness as well. Jellybean's playing that Beastmaster. His damage is very predictable, and Cubsy's doing a great job to read it.
It is, and Absturge is going to be caught yet again with that Frostjaw, as the CC chain is just relentless on him, constantly stuck in CC, but they are going to turn around onto Walter Bear. The smoke bomb is dropped, and look at the cross CC right now. JBZ in that Cyclone with Absturge cheaped also, as Walter Bear is somehow living through this, as the CC chain is never going to end, as he's trying to run away and LOS for a little bit, and that is it. That seals the deal for Juvenile, and they are going to move on to the grand finals.
Yep, and that's a great position to be in. They have their ticket to BlizzCon. Now it's just the difference of $30,000, which is nothing too small in itself, but they're going to be happy about making it to BlizzCon at this point, and FollowESports have to reconsider their game. Just stay calm, stay level-headed. They still have one more chance to make it to BlizzCon. Don't get upset about this. We can see even Jellybeans just playing it out, trying to go for this Murder of Crows at the end, but it's not going to get anything done, as Absurge is sitting through that crowd control at the moment, and Cubsy did great to respond to this composition switch from FollowESports.
He really did. He knew he was going to be the target. And like you said, those choices of using the Iron Bark on himself, he wasn't too worried about Roasties and Wealthy Man whatsoever during that match. There weren't a lot of times that they turned it back around onto the DPS of Juveniles. And look at how happy those guys are. All right, let's hear it from Bajira and Holinka to see what they thought about that match.
All right, we just saw a quick 3-0 sweep by Juveniles over FollowESports. You gotta like the FollowESports is bringing out Jellybeans, letting the Hunters see what they can do. And honestly, I mean, they forced a little bit of pressure going on Cubsy, But once again, Juveniles showing that they definitely have what it takes to move on in this tournament, which is exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, congratulations to them. They're going to BlizzCon. I think that's awesome. A bunch of young guys, they're playing out of their minds. I think, obviously they're playing a strong comp in RMD, but I think talking to all the players here, talking to casters, they're playing it as well as it can be played.
Yeah, so you mentioned they've got to be absolutely thrilled punching their ticket to BlizzCon, although they do get to see just how many zeros are at the end of their ticket at this point. They get to have a really nice shot at some serious prize money, and we're going to hear from them just in a minute. You got to know that they're pumped, and I cannot wait to hear what they got to say. However, we are going to throw it to the casters just for a bit while we get the team set up.
All right, thank you guys again. How do you think that match could have gone different for FollowESports? Do you think it may have been like the setups that they played against the RMD? Was it the tactic choice, or do you think they were just completely outclassed?
I think in this situation, it was a case of being outclassed. It seemed like the Juveniles had an excellent strategy. Roasty saving the blind, putting it into the sap, always locking down Walter on his incarnation. He was really the MVP for locking down that Pharaoh Druid pressure, and he did a great job, as well as Wealthy Man and Cubsy, to make sure that when one of them couldn't get the crowd control, the other one was there to back him up, always playing together as a team, and that's why they were able to so cleanly defeat FollowESports. At the same time, I feel like FollowESports could have played a little bit more solidly on defense with the FLS. It felt like they were just getting a little bit over eager. The excitement got to them. They were one series away from qualifying. I would have liked to see a little bit more patience from them in the first two games, trying to feel it out a little bit longer like they did against Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and now that FollowESports has dropped down to play against the third and fourth place match, we're going to find out who they're playing against very shortly because, of course, coming up, we are going to have Tempo Storm versus Luminosity, and that's going to be a huge match. But first, Bajira does have the team of Juveniles to talk to about that last match.
All right, guys, I am joined once again by Cubsy, the captain of the very victorious Juveniles team. So I got to ask you the generic question. How you feeling? You're going to BlizzCon.
It's very exciting. Pretty good series there. Been doing pretty well in tournaments, so pretty confident for BlizzCon now, too.
I'll say, I think a lot of people are considering you guys to be the best team here. You guys have demonstrated that in a lot of matches. You guys haven't dropped a single game yet. You realize that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to feel good. So you guys have been kicking some serious butt here, and I know you got to be happy about that, how that last series went. So was there any situation where you felt worried, or did you feel like everything was under control?
There was one, I forget which game against the FLS, but one point it was a little scary, but we killed pretty quickly after it. But overall, it was a pretty well-played series, and I'm glad with how we played.
Awesome. So I got to ask you one more question about this CC chain that you guys were able to come up with. I mean, we've seen you guys play great this entire tournament, but it seems like on day 2, you somehow managed to step it up a notch. You guys are CCing off anything. That's got to be, due to some synergy, or what is it that allows you guys to do that?
Oh, I don't know. We're all just trying to do our best to communicate, and, you're always going to try and follow up your CC and just get the most cooldowns you possibly can. So, yeah.
I like that. A lot of good teamwork, humble attitude. Now, of course, you're happy that you're going to BlizzCon, but also, how focused are you guys moving into the finals?
Oh, I mean, if I'm, if my hunch is correct, I think we're going to be playing against probably Tempo Storm. So, we all know how the finals of the Cup 2 qualifiers went, so we got to be feeling pretty good.
Oh, man. So, do you think that they're brave enough to bring out the RMD mirror? Or do you think they're going to play God Comp?
We'll have to see. I think that I think they'll bring out the RMD mirror.
Yeah, you think they're going to go for it? How do you feel in that RMD? Yeah, I think you just hinted at it, but in that RMD mirror.
We feel good, but RMD mirrors, a lot of stuff can happen. So, I mean, we could definitely lose too, but I think we have a good shot.
Yeah, I definitely think you guys do as well. You guys have been playing just absolutely beautiful arena matches today, and I cannot wait to get back to them. But before we do that, we're going to throw it to a quick break, and thanks for watching, guys. Okay, well, actually, we're going to the casters first, and we'll be back with more arena matches shortly.